Hey everyone, so it seems like Luffy just entered the final phase of his battle against Kaido, going SnakeMan as supposedly his final Gear 4th transformation to end the battle, and he is about to lose. Again. Note, regardless of whether or not you believe in the raid failing and all that, that's fine. All I'm going to explain today is that Luffy is not going to succeed in taking down Kaido with this supposedly final Gear 4th attempt. If you think that Luffy, gets up after this beatdown and then still defeats Kaido in the next 10, 15 chapters, then sure, maybe. But Luffy is not winning this round. So, before we get into it, make sure to subscribe for more One Piece videos every week. So first of all, does this feel like the usual climactic setup where Luffy enters his final form one last time to take out the villain? No. And I say that because we do have a history of what Luffy's final rounds usually look like, and it's not this. Right now, there's still too much unresolved noise going on in the story. What do I mean by that? Well, look at, say, Luffy's final Gear 4th transformation against Doflamingo. We had 10 minutes of everyone carrying around Luffy, the sense of impending doom has hit its crescendo with the birdcage, and when everything has clearly hit its final all-or-nothing dramatic peak, then Luffy goes Gear 4th and puts an end to it all in a single chapter. Similarly, Luffy vs. Lucci, the Buster Call is bearing down on the Straw Hats. They absolutely have to escape now or never, and so Luffy enters Gear 2nd for the final time and finishes the fight. Same thing with Luffy vs. Katakuri. The battle has been going on for a long time, but now it's almost 1 a.m., the time for Luffy to meet the rest of the crew at Cacao Island. They've done their job and they've made it there. Now it's down to Luffy to defeat Katakuri and reunite with them, and so he goes to his final transformation, SnakeMan, and wins their final round. Generally, for that final transformation, that final push by Luffy, everything else is pretty much set. Everything has built up to the clear breaking point dramatically, where now Luffy goes into his final transformation and wins that last round with the villain. However, looking at Wano, a lot of things are still off. This moment where Luffy is basically saying, I'm going all out, I'm going to end it now, seems premature. Onigashima is not even above the flower capital yet. The citizens have literally no idea that there's even a battle going on. The drama of this conflict has clearly not yet reached its climax. And even if Onigashima gets to the flower capital by, say, next chapter, which it might, we still have Momonosuke's character conflict that was just introduced that needs to be resolved. We have CP0 now with a brand new initiative. We have these mysterious preparations by Raizo and perhaps the other scabbards. We have the Zunisha situation. All of these factors point to this conflict going on at least a bit longer. It definitely does not feel like Luffy is literally about to end this whole battle with a final push in SnakeMan, as you would typically expect of Luffy going into his final transformation. Now, the bigger issue is that while Luffy seems to be suggesting that he has just played his trump card, and he is now going all out, and he is going to end the battle with his final transformation, on the other hand, narratively, the fact that Luffy is doing this so early seems to suggest that Kaido is actually going to come out the victor. Because while Luffy has laid his cards on the table, Kaido is the one who still has two major cards up his sleeve. That is first, Kaido's awakening, and second, his flashback. What do I mean by that? Well, think about the flow of this battle so far. Luffy arrives back on the roof, now with a full understanding of advanced Conqueror's Haki, and his rematch with Kaido begins. The fight starts with them essentially dead even. They split the sky with their first clash, and from there on, they're both fighting on equal footing, going blow for blow, showing each other respect. It is an even match. Then, as the fight progresses and Kaido begins to drink, he starts getting a little wild, and now Luffy starts having trouble keeping up with him, and slowly we see Luffy getting pushed back and overpowered bit by bit, until finally Luffy activates his trump card, what he claims to be his final Gear 4th, SnakeMan, and Luffy regains the advantage, turns the tables, and begins overwhelming Kaido. So again, the battle starts with them even, then Kaido starts getting the advantage, then Luffy uses his final transformation and reclaims the advantage, and now, the character who still has an ace up their sleeve is actually Kaido, who still has his awakening. And from what we know of Zoan awakenings, the stats boosts that they give are fairly ridiculous. But more importantly than that, it's not just that Kaido has a powerful transformation up his sleeve. That alone doesn't suggest Kaido will win. Rather, it's the fact that we have not yet gotten that last transformation, and we have not yet gotten Kaido's flashback. Narratively speaking, that is a very, very dangerous combination of things for an author to be holding back, as that combination tends to point to the same outcome pretty much every time. If you take a moment to think about it, historically throughout One Piece, and really throughout any shonen manga in general, an important character flashback preceding their final power-up is essentially setting up that character for victory. I mean, look at Onigashima, Zoro and King. You have a character that is losing the fight, they go through their flashback, at the end of it they pull out a power-up and then they win. Same with Robin and Black Maria. Even in older One Piece fights, how about the first time Luffy unveiled SnakeMan? It's preceded by a flashback. How about Zoro cutting steel? It's preceded by a flashback. I mean, it's a trope as old as time. And I'm not just pointing out a pattern that happens to exist. The point of that pattern is that it frames one character as the protagonist of the fight. They are first in a losing situation. We're then shown a flashback that provides some important character foundation to them that is relevant to the immediate conflict and establishes something for their character, and then they come out of that showcasing greater ability than they did before and turning defeat into victory. That classic narrative framing exists precisely because the point is to write a victory for the character. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless. Obviously, Kaido is not the protagonist of One Piece, but I'm saying the way the flow of the fight is going seems to be setting Kaido up to be the protagonist of this round at least. Again, looking at the current setup where Kaido is getting beat down by Luffy's final form, but Kaido is about to go through a dramatic flashback and then break out his own final ability, that suggests that Kaido is being written to win this fight. Not to mention, we've already had this idea dropped in the story that Kaido supposedly has a characteristic victory cry that we have never heard. I think it is very unlikely that Oda just drops this idea in the story and then never has this occur. I've seen people argue that, well, maybe he does the victory cry in his flashback. And sure, maybe he does it in his flashback as well, but when a certain key habit of a character is dropped, you generally expect it to also be shown in the main narrative itself. More importantly, the idea of this signature victory cry is very similar to how we were told in Whole Cake Island about Big Mom's signature monstrous scream. In fact, it seems like both the Yonko have a signature noteworthy scream. Big Mom's was when she's distraught, Kaido's is when he wins a battle. And naturally, just as we did get to see Big Mom's scream in a critical moment, so too would we expect to see Kaido's victory cry. And interestingly, when did we get to hear Big Mom's signature scream? Well, it was accompanied by her flashback and her turning the tables on the Alliance. Similarly, when do I expect to hear Kaido's victory cry? It'll come with his flashback after he turns the tables and defeats Luffy. And finally, I simply doubt that Luffy defeats Kaido without at least one final power-up. This might be a more personal thing, but SnakeMan was an exciting final form for the battle with Katakuri, but I don't think any of us expected that we would be getting, the same thing for the final showdown with Kaido. I'm not talking from a power scaling perspective like, oh, Luffy needs to upgrade from SnakeMan, since I think logically what we're seeing right now does make sense. Ever since Luffy got Advanced Conqueror's Haki, he has clearly had the raw power to hurt Kaido, so SnakeMan is the perfect form to simply add more speed and complexity to his attacks. However, I'm saying from a dramatic standpoint, you would generally expect something new and exciting for the final boss that we've been building towards for so long. I suppose Advanced Conqueror Haki itself technically fits the bill, but at the same time, just dramatically, you would hope for something more. The same way that Oda didn't just have Luffy learn Future Sight to beat Katakuri, he also had Luffy showcase a nice new form to go with it for that extra sense of climax. So whatever you think that final step may be, if you think it's a new Gear 4th form like Tiger Man as so many speculated, or Gear 5th, or even Devil Fruit Awakening, I would expect Luffy to fall and have to get back up again with something new by the time this is all said and done. I personally think that the final answer is unlikely to be another Gear 4th form, as Luffy has claimed that this is his final Gear 4th attempt. So however this battle in Onigashima plays out, I don't think we are seeing a Tiger Man or anything like that, but regardless of what you think happens, if you think this is really the final battle, if you think that the Alliance loses here, either way, I think that we are set up for SnakeMan Luffy at the very least to fall short, and for Luffy to have to resort to one more ability to ultimately defeat Kaido. Not to mention, most of the Onigashima battles so far have featured the protagonists pulling out one final trump card that they had not ever shown before to get the win. We see this in Robin, Zoro, Sanji, Law, and Kid's fights. I think it would be a little underwhelming If Luffy, with the most important fight and the most important opponent, just ends it with the same trick that we've already seen as the finisher to an earlier fight in this same saga. So all of this is to say that regardless of how you think that this Onigashima battle as a whole concludes, this specific matchup of Luffy's SnakeMan versus Kaido that is happening right now, I think this is set up for Kaido to win and Luffy to lose. If you think that in the span of the Onigashima battle, Luffy still gets back up later on and gets the win, fine, that's not for me to argue against here, but based on the fact that there seems to be a lot more unresolved issues going on at the moment for Luffy's final push to succeed, especially in comparison to how past arc final transformations have tended to play out, as well as the fact that at the moment, the flow of the fight seems to be pointing towards a Kaido victory, with Kaido being the character that still has an important flashback to be revealed and an extremely powerful final form that he has been holding on to, and the fact that Kaido supposedly has a signature victory cry that we have yet to hear, one that we would expect to hear at some point considering the fact that we had a very similar situation play out with Big Mom, her scream and her flashback, and finally the simple fact that SnakeMan is not what you would really expect to be Luffy's true final push against the big boss of this huge saga, considering Onigashima has been full of battles that conclude with the protagonists unveiling some new trump card that they have not shown before, and SnakeMan has already played that part for the earlier Katakuri fight in this saga. All of these together suggest to me that at the very least, this round of SnakeMan Luffy versus Kaido is going to go to Kaido. What happens after that? Well, we'll see. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.